Hi guys, it's Cells and Bolts back with another language analysis, this time for Boruto TBV Ch chapter 31. It's going to take me about 12 or 13 minutes to read through this whole thing, but yes, I did write this blog post. I just basically go over all the nuances that were kind of missed out on in Japanese when it was translated, because there's always stuff like that in every chapter, even no matter how small. It's something. It's a translation. It's approximation. Anyway, if you want to know more about that, go to my interesting info tab and read my whole essay that I wrote on translation for one of my classes that I posted. The cover always has text that gets deleted, so I just put it back in here. The top says, コブを殺そうとする家臣孤児。Inojinの決断は? Kashin Koji tries to kill Kobu. What will Inojin decide? Last chapter, the whole big cliffhanger was whether or not Inojin would pick morals or logic. This chapter, it starts by reintroducing that decision. The text behind Ada says, Utsushiki hana wa mushi o yobu. A beautiful flower attracts bugs. There's some interesting things going on in this text, as always. Utsushiki, as opposed to utsukushi, is older Japanese. It's more poetic in nature, and this line seems to follow a 7-5 syllable pattern, which is another common pattern in Japanese poems like haiku. So, utsushiki hana wa, and that is the 7, and mushi o yobu is the 5. Mushi is the word for bug, mamushi is the kanji for bug with a different reading. So it's saying that a beautiful flower, or a woman like Ada, who could also be referred to as a beautiful flower, attracts bugs, or mamushi, who is bug, in the same way an actual flower attracts actual bugs. The title is urusai, or shut up. This is interesting because when you think about the kanji for urusai, there are two ways it can be written, and they're both read as urusai, so I'm not going to say urusai and urusai, but way 1 and way 2. The first way comes from the word wazirawashi, which means the inside of your heart or head is bothersome because it's wavering too much and you want it to be quiet. Talking about a feeling that is troublesome and you want to avoid feeling it if at all possible. The second way refers to flies buzzing around in late May. The kanji is 5th, month, and flies, but it literally carries the sentiment of something is annoying you because it's noisy. Normally written in hiragana, it just means shut up, but I think Ikemoto is somewhat of a literary master, so I assume he'd take those two meanings into account as well. The word itself is used several times throughout the chapter, first by Inojin urusai, and then later by Mamushi tamare, which is a harsher way to convey the same sentiment. Inojin and Mamushi use this word in the literal sense, quieting someone else, but Inojin is also trying to quiet his own wavering thoughts over this difficult situation he's been placed in. Should he escape with his life and give up on the life of a higher-up, or does he follow his duties and ninja to protect them? And there are other people who are trying to quiet their thoughts so they don't cause trouble for others as well, like Sarada. Delta checks on her and she says she's fine even though she's losing her eyesight. Sai as well, during his conversation with Shikamaru, silences his obligation to his duties and listens to what Shikamaru has in mind for this secret operation. And of course, those annoying gnats that buzz around are referring to Mamushi. So all in all, once again, I think it's a really good choice in a title. Page 1 side text. This is something extra in the magazine that usually gets removed in the volumes. It's easy to spot because it's on the edge of the page, so when you're flipping through, if you catch a glimpse, since there's multiple manga that get released as a part of V-Jump magazine and want a quick intro as to what's going on and how it ended, it might catch your eye, etc. 新天心の術で命にコブに体を乗っ取らせた家臣孤児。Inojin no ketsudan wa? Kashin Koji has Inojin take over Kobu's body with the mind transfer jutsu. What decision will Inojin make? Again, talking about Inojin's decision, the word ketsudan is basically making a firm decision about where you stand on something, and within the first 2 pages, he does that. Mamushi perceiving Ida on page 6. The kanji for see or perceive is different from the normal kanji for look that would usually be used in this kind of situation. If you get lost in the Japanese, the main point is highlighted in a bold black box at the bottom, but if you're listening to this, sorry, you're probably just going to end up listening to me explain the whole thing. Mamushi says, Mite yagaru na, Ada. You're watching, aren't you, Ada? Instead of just meaning look like normal miru, this kanji has a closer meaning to chosa, researching in a scientific sense, or shushi, to carefully observe something. So instead of just plain looking, Mamushi is stating that Ada is observing him with her senrigan, or looking closely. But this next line here uses the same kanji, and it says, Mae ni ano oji ga mita toki ni ne. The one time I watched that geezer is the official, but the literal should be the one time that geezer looked at me. This has to be flipped, because if it was Ada looking at Mamushi, she would have used oji o mita instead of oji ga mita, because ga implies that the oji, or Mamushi, the old geezer, is the one doing the looking at her. So I'm not sure why the official flipped it. But this means that Mamushi was watching her just as closely as she was watching him, so in other words, pointing out that his heightened sense of observation with mita, this other kanji, It's also bold and put in quotation marks in the actual Japanese, as well as in the actual Japanese that appears in the chapter as well, to further highlight that Mamushi wasn't just plain looking at her. I think I spelled plain wrong, the wrong sense. That's okay. And then she goes on to say, あいつが私の姿を見えていた. Official, he could definitely see me. Literal, he could see my form. Now it's just using the kanji for look, the normal one, as he glanced and saw. It's 100% clear in this line that Mamushi is doing the looking at Ada, because あいつが, that guy is 私の姿 at my form, 見えていた, he is looking. But then you might ask, why would they change kanji to the normal one for this in this sentence? Wasn't it supposed to be elaborating on a heightened sense of observation? Well, not anymore, because it's elaborating on what Mamushi is seeing, which is Ada's form, and not just that he is observing carefully in general. Sugata means appearance or visible form of a person, but also the state and condition of something. So Mamushi looking at her sugata and perceiving it isn't just looking through her eyes, but as herself as a whole person and potentially even where she is. 他者の視線から様々な情報を得られるのよ. He can gather intel from looking into other people's eyes. Literally, he can gather various information from the line of sight of others. This word, shisen, is quite literally the direction your eyes are looking or the way you are looking at something. So, line of sight, I think, fits pretty well as a translation here. This is talking about Mamushi potentially being able to see through the lines of sight of others as long as they are looking at him. 千里眼であいつの姿を見ちゃったら、私がここにいることもバレる. If I were to use Senrigan right now, he'd know exactly where I am. Here, Ida also uses the normal word miru for looking at Mamushi with her Senrigan instead of the other kanji as well, so it's not just a Senrigan or Mamushi specific word or kanji, which takes us to our conclusion, finally. When Ada looked at him with her Senrigan, Mamushi could also see that she was looking at him because she was looking, as if he could see himself through Ada's eyes. So he does have some sort of ability to perceive where people are when they are looking at him. I think that's also why he makes a bunch of clones in an earlier chapter and says, let's round up as many lines of sight as we can, because the more people he exposes himself to, the more people that are looking at him, the more he can see. And all it'll take is one glimpse of Ada through someone else's eyes to find out where she is and flock there. I don't know what all is included in this various information or intel, as the official puts it, but I assume it's direct location since Ada says, if I were to use Senrigan right now, he'd know exactly where I am. When Ada looked at Mamushi for the first time with her Senrigan, she was outside a cafe and not in her house. So it would make sense that Mamushi hasn't found her house yet, even if she could see her location at that specific time that she looked at him back in that other chapter. Okay, now that that's settled. Mamushi's drunk speech. During this entire chapter, Mamushi's talking like a drunk old man. They didn't really put that nuance in because they already made him sound Midwestern, and it's hard to make him sound drunk on top of that while making the chapter coherent, but here's my translation of some of his lines, so hopefully you can see. Page 8 through 9 we have, Oi, we're going around exposing ourselves, but that woman, is she really in this village or what? Don't get your panties in a bunch. One look at this will all be over. We'll get her on the first try. Yeah, and I'm asking when the heck that'll be. Can it, you dung beetle? The heck you doing, word I can't say? Shut up, or you're going down with him. On page 30. Your face is really pissing me off. Hey, you're one to talk. If you die too quick, that irritating feeling will keep on bugging me. Admittedly, this is harder to read, so I get why the official didn't do it that way, but in Japanese, a lot of the end of his sentences are dragged out, and I thought he couldn't say the word woman properly and was slurring it, but I learned a new thing today. Yay. 本当にこの里に家があんのか? That wench, is she even in this village? Ama is actually an older derogatory way to refer to a woman, something that someone in the Yakuza might use. Very rude and aggressive. I mentioned before that just saying onna on its own can sometimes sound like a 5-letter B word in another chapter where Matsuri, the Shinju, uses it to call Moagi the human, but this is more straight up, that's what it means. No context needed, the word as it is enough. So for a harsher form of the word woman in English, one that sounds derogatory, specifically an insult for women, the word that works best there with context nuance-wise is probably the 5-letter B word or the C word. Obviously, the official wouldn't put that in, but I can still talk about it, so there you go. There were a few bug puns scattered throughout this chapter as well. I translated dung beetle was kusomushi or a word I can't say, bug. The official translated to darn bug with not darn, not a euphemism. Keep on bugging me in my translation was hara no mushi ga osamaranai. Literally, the bug in my stomach won't settle, which is a metaphor for being angry or annoyed in Japanese, and the official translated it to I need to get my anger out, which is a little bit more of a direct translation. Ohirume on page 19. This chapter, Sarada says that her gravitational force can only affect objects she's able to see with her own eyes. But there's a little bit more nuance to this in Japanese here, so I'm just kind of going to explain that really quick. この目で直に目視した. Sorry, there's someone like outside. この目で直に目視した答えにしか影響しないの. Why did I struggle to read that so much? Anyway, official says can only affect objects that I'm able to see with my own eyes. The literal is I can only affect objects directly after I spot them with this naked eye. There's a few things I want to point out about this line. The first is that it's definitely singular eye. She says konomede, or specifically with this eye. It further highlights that this is only the ability of one of her eyes. The second thing is jikani, which is literally directly after or immediately after she spots it. So if they find some way to undo her gravity hold on them, she'll have to look at them again for it to work, I think is what that's kind of implying, but you can take that however you want. That's just my interpretation. The third thing is the bold word in quotation marks, mokshi. It means to see with your eyes. It's very specific in terms of not just see in the sense of looking or glancing, but to actually see with your own eyes. I don't know how to describe this, but I think it will tie into point number 4, and that's likely why this word in specific was used and bolded in quotation marks. We can see Sarada is starting to go blind, so when she's no longer able to see clearly, that might affect her ability to use this power. Shikada using slang. マジでキリがねえぜ。こっちの消耗もパーね。There's no end to them. Our chakra is draining quick. Pa ne じゃなくて pa ne. Anyway, a little nuanced detail that just made me happy with how well Ikamoto keeps up with teenage slang. Shikadai has always talked with a lot of guy-coded shortened slang. It's part of his character, but here he uses pa ne, which is short for hampa janai, which means something like not half-baked or half-word I can't say. So literally it's our exhaustion ain't half-blanked either. I think reading Mamushi's lines in a drunk accent screwed my brain over a little bit, but that's fine. Ada is bait. I love her response. You can hear me read it when I do the read-through of this on YouTube, and it'll probably make more sense, but she says, え、待って。え、待って。私をおとりにしようっての？何勝手なこと言ってんのよ。Official. Hold on a sec. Did you just say you're going to use me as bait? My translation. No, wait, stop. You're using me as bait? I was not part of this decision. The official removes this last line because it's difficult to translate. Literally, it's what selfish things you're saying. But the implications are, how could you just go and decide that on your own? My favorite part of this is the matte. If you've ever seen Joshua Thompson, jj.jj.7 on Instagram, he does a lot of videos imitating the popular girl in Japan, and a lot of them are so Ada-coded. Take a little bit of the sassy preppiness off and replace it with this kind of cool, calm, yeah, I own the world, and attitude, and you have Ada. It took me 20 minutes to hunt down his channel because I don't follow anyone on Insta and I could not remember his name for the life of me. Anyway, anytime she has a reply to anything, especially in this chapter 16, it cracks me up. This is no exception. Especially in chapter 16. Oops. The last page side text. 衝撃の作戦とともに、ついに戦いに飢えた悪魔が動き出す。マムシ戦は最終局面。With this new shocking plan, the demon on the battlefield makes his or their move. The final stage of battle commences. Mamushi is referred to several times as a demon akuma, but here it means more like a ruthless combatant, someone who is battle hungry and going on a rampage, with the word going on a rampage as bo to kashiteiru. Is translated to an irrational mob by the official for both times Sarada says it. Either way, the final stage of battle commencing means this arc will be over soon. What do you guys think is coming next? That's all for this month's language analysis review. I hope you enjoy it. See you next month.